A journey through time.
The African American, you need to connect it to your roots.
Understanding our past to shape our future.
These are the shoulders that we had to stand on to get where we're at today.
Tonight, we're celebrating Black history.
I was the first Black anything at McChesney Elementary School.
Discovering our roots.
Most of the blueprint comes from us.
You're watching Black Culture Amplified, Our Roots. Good evening and welcome to 13 WRAX's Black History Month special, Black Culture Amplified, Our Roots. I'm Brittany Hardaway. I'm sure you've heard the saying, if you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going. So tonight, we're taking a look back and tracing our roots all the way to the motherland. Located on the western coast of Ghana sits the Elmina Castle, a place with so much scenic beauty, but a dark history of enslavement. Recently, I traveled to Africa, making a stop in Cape Coast to see this historical site for myself. These ancient walls, once home to one of the most terrifying and tragic times in our history, the transatlantic slave trade. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, between 1501 and 1867, nearly 13 million African people were kidnapped, forced onto European and American ships, and trafficked across the Atlantic Ocean to be enslaved, abused, and forever separated from their homes, families, and cultures. And for millions of African slaves, the Elmina Castle was the last time many would ever see their homeland. Nathaniel Afori, a tour guide for the Elmina Castle, walked me through showing the male and female slave dungeons. This is where Africans will be held for months awaiting transport. While Europeans lived in luxury on the upper levels of the castle, the dungeons were cramped and filthy, piled with hundreds of enslaved Africans at a time, not even enough space to lie down. The conditions so bad, diseases like malaria and yellow fever were all too common. Due to the heightened risk of disease, captors would travel alone, leading to a dark history of abuse for African women.
But when the Europeans came here, they never came along with their wives. Because at that time, the coast of Africa was termed as a white man's grave. Rather, they were abusing the women. The various dungeons here. The governor with the position was standing at the balcony here. That way the soldiers to brought all the women into the courtyard there.
After the governor selected a woman, she would be washed here and taken through a secret staircase that led directly to the governor's chambers to be abused.
But some of the women refused not to obey the governor, so they punished them. Let's see the punishment they gave.
This cannonball, weighing 77 pounds, just one of the brutal punishments.
Those who refused not to obey the governor, chains or shackles was connected to the cannonball here with your hands or your legs. You'll be standing here raining or shining without giving food or water.
This was the grim reality for African slaves, living in deplorable and unsanitary conditions.
These bars, more than 500 years old, very heavy. These bars were used to keep our ancestors enslaved.
Taken from the coast of West Africa and sold to European slave traders, the last view for many enslaved Africans, the door of no return.
So smaller boats will come here and take them to the waiting ship. From here, the Portuguese take their slave to Brazil, Ecuador. The Dutch take their slave to America, Suriname, Guyana, Haiti, Caribbean, what have you.
At the door of no return, a moment of silence for the African ancestors. And also a full circle moment to reconnect.
This door is no more a door of no return. This is a door of return. We are going to return back because you're no more slaves.
Through hundreds of years of this unimaginable horror, Black people returning to the motherland and finding their way back home.
You are home! It's been a long time that we miss you. That is why.
I just finished my tour of the Elmina Castle and the experience was amazing. I learned so much about my African ancestors, so much about the pain and the struggles that they went through. So it was just amazing to see it so up close and personal.
Roots are the ankles to our existence. So during my trip to Ghana, I felt it was important to really trace my roots.
So here's the tube.
About 8 weeks before the trip, I took a DNA ancestry test and waited to reveal my results at the very place my ancestors stood, surviving years of terror and cruelty.
These are my results.
Brittany is 33% Nigeria, 17% Cameroon, 14% Ghanaian.
This was one of the most fulfilling moments, overcome with happiness because beyond the ancestry results, I know I am my ancestors' wildest dreams manifested. They hoped and dreamed of liberation, to be treated with respect and dignity. And although that did not happen for them, their sacrifices made way for a better today and tomorrow.
In the everlasting memory of our ancestors, may those who died rest in peace. And may those who return find their roots. And may humanity never perpetuate this injustice against humanity. And we, the living, uphold to this.
A deep part of exploring our roots is knowing education has always been a core value in the Black American experience. From our ancestors learning how to read and write in secrecy, to now leading classrooms to teach the next generation. But Destin, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, Brittany, Black educators are still underrepresented in the U.S. And when we talk about Black men, that number is even lower. Tonight, we explore the need for Black male teachers and why their presence inside the classroom is essential to academic success.
A high school basketball coach, coaching varsity sports, and he was our African American history teacher. And because I saw him doing that, I wanted to do that.
I had an uncle that really, I wanted to be like him when I grew up. And I'm a firm believer that you are what you see.
Long lineage of teachers, like my parents were really big on education.
He did it, then now, I can do it. I can possibly do it in some way.
Black men, all with role models leading them down the path to becoming an educator, starting with Terrell Yarbrough, the current and first Black superintendent of the Harlem School District and first Black educator at McChesney Elementary School. Looking back on his own journey, Yarbrough believes the passion for teaching begins as a student.
I feel a lot of Black males don't go into education because in education, while they were in education and in school, they felt like they had to wear a mask in order to be them. And I can speak to myself as well. I thought I had to act a certain type of way in school that was different than when I was at home in my neighborhood in order to be successful.
But what happens when you grow up without representation? Million Riley, a junior at Guilford High School, says he's only had 4 teachers of color growing up, only one of whom was a man.
As I got older and I wasn't seeing as many teachers or educators that looked like me and people who actually understood what it was like to be a young Black man, then it started clicking and made me think more about it.
I sat down with Harlem Middle School teachers Dwayne Milton and Ronaldo Cooper, explaining how they've seen a lack of representation impact students and those thinking about a career in education.
Growing up, I'm an inner city Chicago kid, and all we've known is sports. And we get a lot of teachers that say, you're not even gonna make it anywhere. So we get that over and over and over again. So it's kind of, hard to say, oh, I want to do that when I get older, especially when you don't see it. You don't see it, a lot of African Americans doing this job.
It's never been cool to be like, oh, you're a teacher? Oh, that's great. That's not where it's been. It's always been a ball player, a rapper, drug dealer, something that's just stereotypical to what we are. But there's always been a place for us to be teachers.
The perceived lack of sustainability is also something keeping new teachers from joining the profession.
Right, not a lot of pay, not going to allow individuals to really take care of their families the way that they want to, right? And when you start thinking about other professions and the amount of money, and two, we're a lot of Black males like myself, and I'll speak personal, local, immediate, we come from that mindset of wanting to be a part of sports because it pays a lot.
Data from the 2022 to 2023 Illinois report card shows over 130,000 teachers in the Illinois public schools, 6.2% of whom are Black. Now let's look at the number of Black male teachers in some of our local communities. The Rockford Public School District has over 1,600 teachers. About 27% of them are male, and just over 3% of those teachers are Black. The Harlem School District has 441 teachers, 22.8% of whom are males, and less than 1% of those teachers are Black. So what's the solution? Bryce Thomas, basketball coach and social studies teacher, says educators in place now can do more to encourage people to follow their passion.
The pay is definitely something that's a big part of it. However, I'm under the belief that if you really feel this is your passion, you're going to find a way that you're going to be able to survive and make money off of it. And you're going to take the extra steps, or doors are going to open for you that you're going to be able to get the compensation that matches your passion.
And I think that's where mentorship comes into play, and having programs within schools that promote the benefits of being a teacher.
To be here, to show up for it, to let people who are curious about it know that it's more than what we were taught it was.
Coming up, we explore the deep history of African American quilting, the secret purpose they served for slaves seeking freedom, and how the art of quilt making has evolved through the years. What does Black History Month mean to you?
Black History Month is a month dedicated to us. It gives us an opportunity to recognize our forefathers and all the great work and contributions that they've made to this country.
As we continue to explore and learn about our roots, the history of quilting in African American culture is often overlooked. Tonight, how these powerful works of art tell the stories of slavery, freedom, and family.
Each block is unique and within itself. If you look at quilts, a lot of them will tell a story.
But we know every story has a beginning.
I feel like you can't talk about the history of quilting without talking about Gee's Bend.
Well, Gee's Bend basically brought the idea of quilting to the American public.
Gee's Bend is a small settlement in Wilcox County, Alabama, once labeled one of the poorest communities in the country.
And they were still living kind of in slavery, even after slavery was abolished. These people at Gee's Bend didn't even know. They weren't even aware.
Gee's Bend is home to only a couple hundred people, most of which are descendants of slaves.
It actually began in like 1848 when this man whose last name was Gee, bought these slaves, and that's why they call it Gee's Bend.
Dorothy Page Turner, a longtime educator in the Rockford community, says it's important history more people need to know.
I did the play Gee's Bend in Rockford through Rockford University, and after doing that play, it really piqued my interest. So a year later, I went to Gee's Bend.
Dorothy says the women of Gee's Bend formed a quilting bee to help stimulate the economy.
They found materials anywhere they could find scraps of fabric. They would put it into a quilt. They carried on the traditions from Africa because they were in such an isolated community.
The shapes, symbols, colors, design, all filled with cultural tradition dating back centuries.
I was brought up with quilters in my family, and what I was told was the enslaved people would get the clothes from their masters. Whatever they gave them, they would cut it apart and sew it together, and they would make quilts.
Cleta Berryhill, owner of Cleta Stay and Sew in Rockford, says during that time it was all about functionality.
It was a matter of just necessity then. Have the slaves and have enough anything. And so in order for them to stay warm, they just sat and made these quilts with their clothes.
A big part of quilting is oral tradition. Though oral histories leave no written record, what remains are the stories passed down from generation to generation. And many believe quilt patterns relate messages to slaves preparing to escape.
Seeing a quilt outside of a home, that could make a difference from like a life and death experience.
Oh, of course it would, yeah, because you wouldn't know what direction you would go in until those were laid out there and would tell you, don't go that way, go this way.
I got an up-close look at a few Underground Railroad quilts, Cleta's hanging on display at her store.
You've made it over to Canada.
And quilt maker Charlene Bird showing me hers, all woven together by hand.
What's really unique is how the slaves used them.
The quilt codes for the Underground Railroad were hidden in plain sight, each square meaning something different.
And all these are messages that are saying, and it tells you to follow it through the woods. And this one says, fill up your basket, so that you know with your food and whatever you need to go that will help you through.
Charlene tells me quilts will be hung outside safe houses for slaves seeking freedom, and the symbols would tell them if it was a safe place to stop and where to go next.
The Africans that were brought over here were not dumb people. They were smart people, and they knew what they were doing, you know.
Though the purpose of quilts has changed through the years, the stories that lie between each piece of fabric are threaded in history.
When I grew up in El Dorado, Arkansas, which is southern Arkansas, we were not as black people, African Americans, in that southern town of Arkansas. We were not allowed to try on dresses, clothing, or shoes.
Dorothy says instead of shopping at a department store, her best friend's mom would make them beautiful dresses for every occasion. And those dresses are still with her today.
They're scraps from my mother's dresses and my sister's dresses and mine in this quilt topper.
A quilt passed down from generation to generation with deep connections of family.
Everybody that I've done memory quilts for, I feel their presence when I'm doing it.
You take pride when you see these quilts. You know, look at the quilts and understand them.
Coming up, the stories we tell through Black art and its impact on the culture. What does Black History Month mean to you?
Black History Month is a great month that we can look back at the history and the struggle of so many Rockfordians. But it's also a great month that we can help celebrate and appreciate the wonderful Black voices that we have here today.
Welcome back. Look at these intriguing pieces of art, all created by a Black artist here in Rockford. And Shannon, we know the art scene is a huge part of our community.
Yes, Brittany, from Africa to Illinois, these creatives are showing us why it's important to keep the culture alive. Tonight we're highlighting two local artists breaking barriers on what art truly is and the power it holds. This is Black history rooted in art.
We all can contribute to humanity one way or the other, and this is my way to do it. Yeah.
Whether it's through a single drop of paint or body language,
all dances have derived from somewhere. Hip hop and a lot of even ballet has been derived from African dance styles. So I would say most of the blueprint comes from us.
Black art tells a story.
It's important for Black artists to have these spaces.
Self-taught portrait and painter Kelvin Candy's roots in art began at a young age in his hometown of Malawi in Southeast Africa. After moving to Rockford in 2013, he was invited to join Rockford's Hip Hop Congress, an organization helping new artists gain exposure, which helped Kelvin build his craft and become an intricate part of Rockford's art scene.
The goal, like my new work going forward, is models from Rockford. I think it will be one of the greatest things to pay homage to the city that adopted me as one of their own.
Candy's devotion to art is a statement to Black artists who came before him, like Rockford native Virgil Abloh, one of the greatest Black creatives who took the world of fashion by storm, notably as the creative director of menswear for Louis Vuitton.
Seeing him do it, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, it's possible. Black art has affected the world, has moved the needle.
A more expressive tone of storytelling starting from the 19th century took form. Choreographer Aaliyah Novoa, who leads Afro and hip-hop dance classes at FAB, says so many influential Black entertainers have inspired her love for dance.
I wanted to create something that I didn't feel like I had here for myself, you know, and I figured, well, heck, if I want that or I like that style of dance, I'm sure there's other people that would love to do that too.
Her journey in the arts started due to a lack of representation growing up, but she created opportunities to dive into her culture by networking with local artists, encouraging her to embrace her roots.
I wanted to build something great here, and then even if I'm able to venture out and get great opportunities, that way I can build a platform to be able to shine light back on where I come from.
I even got the chance to learn some moves in one of her classes.
And it's for our culture, it's for us, we've got something to say.
Paying homage to the culture that was made by us.
We are the blueprint.
For us.
I can't escape being Black. We do have a story to tell. And we add more to humanity.
Black Culture Amplified will be right back.
What does Black History Month mean to you?
Black history to me means American history. It gives us all a chance to look at truth and information and understand where our country has come from and where we're going.
I hope you enjoyed this special and really learned about the rich cultural heritage of the Black community. From all of us here at 13 WRAX, we wish you a happy Black History Month. Remember, Black history is American history. I'm Brittany Hardaway.